Mhm.
You may receive a notification saying that it's on live. Right, okay. I think it's set up here.
Bhante,
So,
Yep.
can I
good
be
evening.
Mike? Can I be
Good
Mike?
evening, Bhante.
Good evening.
And good evening, everyone. So today is our fourth day. So you have traveled halfway through. Another 4 weeks to go. I hope that you've been enjoying this journey and practicing. So I will hand over to Bhante.
Thank you. I just thought I'd wait a couple of minutes. Some people are just genetically geared to be late.
Yeah.
It's in their DNA. Can't do much about it. I was trying to get the image off my glasses. Oh well, that'll have to do, I'm afraid. It's odd.
Uh-huh.
I can't read it without my glasses.
Right. Okay. So I'll make Bhante co-host first, and then we'll mute all.
Are you? Is everybody from Scotland? I know. Uh, no,
No, we have from London,
I'm from London. Okay.
and we had from America, but it's been 2 sessions. I haven't seen them.
Hmm.
And then most of others are from Scotland.
Ah,
Okay.
did you have snow today?
We had it, and today is still some snow around in our center, and it's very cold. The day before yesterday was -6. Yesterday
Ooh,
was like a minus
ouch.
4. And today, when I was going around in the building, oh, it was so freezing cold.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
We had a bit of snow here, which was interesting,
Hmm.
just covered with a little bit.
Uh-huh.
We didn't. I don't think we went down to minus,
Right. Uh,
and that's Wales. I'm on the borders of Wales, in case people want to know.
yeah. I think Bhante, you have some retreats as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
the
There's lots of.
public.
If you go onto the website Satipanya, you'll find
Yeah.
all through summer.
Hmm.
We try and keep a continuous roll on, roll off.
Hmm.
So there's no break, so people can stay for quite some time. That's
Hmm.
the idea, anyway.
Hmm.
And we do urge you to come for 2 weeks. 1 week's fine, but 2 weeks is better.
So anybody wanted to have a 2 weeks retreat with the Bhante in Wales,
But it's
you
not
can,
just with me. There's other teachers there now. Yeah,
yeah. So you can contact visiting Satipanya website.
yeah. Okay. Well, we may as well start. Yeah.
Yes, Bhante.
Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato harato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Buddha, the blessed, noble, and fully self-awakened one. So there was a question about falling asleep in meditation. So I thought there's an opportunity really to look at the whole problem of dullness and lethargy, and take, as they say in AI, to take a deep dive if we can. So dullness and lethargy. It translates the Pali word tinamida. And it used to be translated when I first came into Buddhism as sloth and torpor, which were, of course, moralistic words, right? And in fact, it's in the Christian tradition, it's one of the seven deadly conditionings or sins. with pride, avarice, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, sloth, right? But then afterwards, they wanted to take the moralistic heaviness of it, and you'll find people talking about dullness and lethargy. But that's more like a phenomenological, I love that word, phenomenological view of dullness. And it's what you feel. You feel dull in the head and you feel heavy, lethargic in the body. I was looking up cognitive science because cognitive science has come a really, really, really long way. There's a man called, don't worry, he'll come to me later. And they've called it arousal dysregulation. How about that? Dullness and lethargy is arousal dysregulation. So if you can make it, because it's all to do with brain chemistry as far as the secular people are concerned. Remember, it's one of the five hindrances, right? So we talk about hindrances. They're hindrances if we don't make them objects to investigate, right? I mean, they're teaching us something about ourselves. Sensual desire, ill will, dullness and lethargy, restlessness and remorse, and skeptical doubt. So it's one of the five there. And it's for those of you who have done quite a bit of meditation, you'll know it is a severe hindrance. The tendency is definitely to fall asleep. There's cognitively, I mean, the way you're thinking is just like a mental fog in your mind, and your energy is low. There's a feeling of inertia. Now, it affects your mood because emotionally, what motivates you begins to disappear, and you end up feeling apathetic and disengaging. You just don't want to know. And in meditation, as the original question was asking, it feels like a sinking, like you're sort of fading away and out. Now, in the Buddhist teaching, it's considered an unwholesome mental factor, obviously, and it undermines your ability to practice and to make insight. Only if you don't make the dullness and lethargy the object to observe. See, as soon as you make it the object to observe, then it also becomes a path to insight. It's good to know also that make a distinction between depression and dullness and lethargy. So depression is more with you all the time. It's a mood that stays with you and tends to be very negative about yourself, about the world. There's and also a loss of identity into it. So in the worst cases, I had a student who unfortunately ended up committing suicide. There was no way anybody could help him. He had six people looking after him at one point, but he just couldn't handle it. And eventually he downloaded from the website, the dark web, a little machine that makes carbon dioxide, drove out to a country place in his car, and that's where they found him. Carbon monoxide, excuse me, carbon monoxide, and they found him out in the country. So that was really sad. But when I was with him, it was a very deep, very depressive, self-negative, negative to the world mood, which isn't really what Tina Meter is. Tina Meter just means you feel tired and you want to go to sleep. It can come with depressive thoughts and things like that, but generally speaking, it's much lighter. It doesn't have that heaviness to it. The depression has a lot of self-aversion, right? Some of the causes, I mean, an obvious cause is overeating. Now, when we eat and we're eating carbohydrates, the body actually creates a chemical which makes you feel tired because it needs the energy for you to digest. And I can tell you from personal experience that as you get older, it takes longer to digest. After my midday meal, I sort of don't really wake up till about 3:30, even though I've not eaten that much. It's just the way it is. Now we come to a more juicy thing when we talk about using sleep as a suppressive measure, and that tends to be something that we do. So if uh, if if we if something is overwhelming us, if we're in a place which we're finding very difficult, there's a tendency, should we say, there's an attraction to what somebody called the duvet dive. So you just want to disappear, and it's a soft suicide, right? You're just getting rid of yourself for a while, and often it does help, but sometimes you wake up feeling even worse. But it's a repressive, you're pushing something away. And in the meditation, when you're practicing, if something difficult comes up, you might find that habit coming in, and you might find yourself wanting to fall asleep. And it's because you're not turning towards the mental state that you're feeling, right? So it's sometimes an avoidance to sleep on it. Now, the other reason for dullness and lethargy is because we like sleeping. Yeah. So, especially after a hard week on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, you wake up and it's nice and cozy, and you think, oh, I'll just roast the other side. You just turn over and disappear again. And you keep doing it, till about 12 noon when you sort of stagger up and get yourself a cup of tea. All that's bad energy because you don't need to be asleep. And so what it forms is this blanket, this sort of heavy, warm blanket on top of you. And seeking happiness, seeking escape from suffering in oblivion is is only temporary, right? So it's not a place we want to go to really, and that's why dullness and lethargy is so prevalent in our practice. It's a methodology that we've learned to not to look at difficult things, and it's a nice place to be. Sometimes it comes because we've lost the inspiration. Often long-term meditators, if you think back to beginner's mind, what's known in Zen as beginner's mind, and the enthusiasm, the desire to practice, and then, a few years on, and it's sort of gone. So somehow the inspiration goes, and it turns into a sort of habit. You get up in the morning, and if you're in the habit of meditating, you just do it, and then you finish it, and it loses that zest. So that you have to be careful of that. And often that is accompanied with a sort of lack of energy. um Somehow, like when you go to sit, you have to stop there for a minute and just reflect and get yourself into that energetic mood to actually do the practice. I had a very good meditator, and he was very good at staying on the breath. And I asked him, how did he do it? And he said, well, we use we use the noting word in this particular technique, rising, falling, watching the abdomen. So he would go rising, falling, just one more. It was like pumping iron, when lifting up and pumping iron. Just one more, letting fall. Just so he'd fill the gap with just one more. So just that little impetus to keep the attention steady. So increasing that energy can sometimes be important. Sometimes, get a sense of urgency, a little reflection on sickness, aging, and death, especially death. It has a way of sort of motivating us. Time is short, and it gets shorter all the time until, there's not much future left. And so, yeah, so it's good to sort of remind ourselves that, this life is precious. The Buddha said that, if you want to get liberated anywhere, this is the best place because we've got this combination of unhappiness and happiness, and this intelligence, this intuitive intelligence, which is bright, right? You see in animals, you see a little bit of that intelligence, but it's not as bright as ours. So it's a great pity if we waste it. So get that little bit of sense of urgency. Sometimes you can recall to mind inspiring teachings, which lift you up, especially a book. For a very long time, I used to read Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Suzuki Roshi. It didn't matter where I opened it, just opened it on a page, and it would lift my energy to practice. We'll come to these again slightly when we talk about the Buddha's advice to Mogulana, but it's the usual thing: straight posture. And in the morning, when you're practicing meditation, if you feel that there is this dullness and lethargy and it's overcoming you, do the walking meditation. You only need a few steps wherever you are, in your bedroom, your front room, and instead of watching the feet or anything, just feel that heaviness in the body, the dullness in the mind. Just walk with it up and down. That's all. See. Now, what you're allowing, you see, is for this bad energy to manifest. And in its manifestation, it's exhausting itself. Don't forget that. That's the healing process. It's because we're letting the heart manifest its turbulences. It is a turbulence. It's just a turbulence that draws you down into the pit. But it is a turbulence. And it's just allowing that turbulence to manifest, which is the cure, right? It's a therapy. But you've got to stay awake. If it doesn't come into consciousness, it remains within the system. It remains suppressed. Focus on light, open the eyes, things like that. You can, if you wish, when you're sitting, just be aware of the spiritual faculties. So often we're falling asleep because we're not putting enough energy in it. You get that sinking. But if you have too much energy, then of course you move into agitation. So it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. Yeah, I just got stuff here from cognitive therapy, which is fine. They talk about it in a slightly different way. So what I want to move now to is the fact that cognitive therapy, remember, is coming from a scientific materialism. And what science does, and is doing very well indeed, is telling us how things are, how they work, what happens, but they can't tell you why. That's the purpose of religion. The purpose of religion is to give you a reason for being alive. Now, if you are a materialist, that doesn't mean to say you can't give yourself a good reason for being alive. One of them might be just to help others, but your personal life, your inner personal life, on death just disappears, and that's the end of it. So it doesn't have much continuation, shall we say? And what it does is it moves liberation, psychology, and philosophy towards just wellness and being, just being optimized in your wellness. And because of that, it's not possible for a materialist to have even a glimpse of possibility. So what I normally say to somebody who is a scientific materialist is, just to leave a little chink open, just allowing that little chink, that there may be a possibility, not probability, I'm just saying a possibility of there being something beyond the psychophysical organism, right? I mean, that's it. Now, for those of us who believe that there is an afterlife, who believe that there is a full liberation, the danger there is that you confuse belief with knowing, right? And this is an easy mistake to make. you're so convinced of it that you've forgotten that you don't actually know, right? You don't know. And therefore, that's the purpose of meditation, right? To actually know by your direct experience. And this is what the Buddha says. Got to be very careful with the intellect. It's very clever, right? In convincing you that you actually know, but you don't, right? I mean, if you have a past life recall, fine. If you have an out of body experience where you're just outside the body completely observing the body, that would put you in the right experience. But if you've not had those sorts of experiences, then that's what the practice is about, right? Slowly coming to realize that there is this intuitive awareness in us, which is of a different order. But that has to be experienced. You can't believe it, right? That's why we say uh, Buddhism is a religion without belief, right? That's not the same as faith. Faith in the sense of confidence. You have to have that, or else you don't do anything. Yeah. Okay, so we'll end by the Buddha's own advice to Mogulana. So these two disciples, they were Brahmins. They came to him, and they began to work with him. And Mogulana was having problems with dullness and lethargy, and so he gives him various things to do. So don't dwell or pay attention to specific thoughts that lead you into drowsiness, right? So change your focus. You can reflect on the Dharma. We said this before, on something which is inspiring. You can reflect upon it. Sometimes you can recite, you can just chant. And while you're chanting or reciting, you can still have some attention towards the feelings of dullness and lethargy. There's also, and I did this a lot when I was in the East, refresh yourself with cold water. If you get a big tub of cold water and do the Wim Hof trick, that definitely wakes you up. Visualize light. Well, that's only if you've got very good visualization, but basically open your eyes and you can let the light in. Sometimes you just do it a little bit and sometimes wide open. But the attention is inward towards the feelings of dullness and lethargy, not out on what you're looking at. And then, of course, we've talked about walking meditation. So that's always good. It gives you a focus and it gives the body a bit of energy. He also talked about mindful rest. That's always a bit dodgy. So you sort of relax back into a restful posture, but you have to be careful not to fall asleep, right? But it's just giving the body a little bit of rest, and that's something that we need to recognize. There is tiredness, at the end of a day, there should be tiredness and there should be deep and proper restful sleep, not just for the body, but for the old brain and the mind. So it's distinguishing tiredness from that overlay of that dullness and lethargy that we sometimes have. Uh, we can also add, of course, over socializing. The Buddha was big on viveka, seeking solitude, getting away from the crowd, being by oneself, uh, and in a busy life, at work, meeting people, neighbors, all these, and of course your own family, whoever's in the house with you. It's all, remember, it's all communication, it's all energy, moving in, moving out. And it's good to find little spaces, little places where you can just sit and draw yourself into an inner quietness, and just draw yourself down into that silence a little bit. It's very refreshing. Um, and even, I mean, even if you're tired, sometimes they used to use. I haven't heard it for a long time, but they used to talk about power naps. Have you come across that? Power naps. You just, 5, 10 minutes and you just let your head droop and you wake up and it does refresh you. But that you normally need that because you've been overactivated. Yeah. You have to be careful of social media, just gets into you. I myself, I like to listen to these podcasts, political podcasts and economic podcasts. And, you get sucked in. There's one after the other. So you got to make a real determination. I'm just going to do this one and that's it. Very good. So, time. I'd like to end with something that I always used to say, but I went out of, I haven't said it for a long time. Yeah. If you think about it, we were probably conceived on a bed and we were probably born on a bed and we spend a third of our lives in bed. And when you're sick, you go to bed and we'll probably die in a bed. So you can see the bed is the most dangerous place in the world. Having said that, I can only hope my words have been of some assistance and that by your diligence in practice, you may be fully liberated from all suffering in this very life. That's what my teacher Upandita used to say, in this very life. Very good. So if we sit for a while, and then we'll take refuges and precepts and some metta practice. Okay. Always good to reflect for a moment when we've sat. Just how, how did we deal with any hindrance that came up? Which of the three characteristics was most obvious to us, even in that short sit? Impermanence, the role of desire in creating unsatisfactoriness, and not self, not me, not mine. We can also make a little resolution for the next sitting. So we can take refuges and precepts. Namo tassa bhagavato harato samba sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato harato samba sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato harato samba sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammam saranang gacchami. Sangham saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Sangham saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammam saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Sangham saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Kame sumichachara veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Sura Mareya Majja Pamadatana Veramani Sikapadang Samadhiyami. Tisaranena Saha Panchasilang Sadhukang Katva Appamadena Sampadita. Having taken refuges and precepts, quoting the final words of the Buddha, strive diligently for your liberation. So practicing metta bhavana, developing goodwill, loving kindness. So the traditional or usual blessings, if you wish to use them. May you be safe, well and happy. May you live contented in harmony with the world. Yeah. So let's bring to mind someone who naturally warms the heart when we bring them into our hearts, and offer them your blessings. Bring to mind a benefactor. May you be safe, well and happy. May you live contented in harmony with the world. Bring into our hearts those who are near and dear to us. Friends, people at work, whomever we wish. A neutral person, someone we see but don't know. Turning the stream of goodwill, loving kindness towards ourselves. And into the heart of goodwill, anyone we're having difficulties with. Radiating outwardly, first of all, to each other, our present spiritual companion. May we, radiating outwardly to those who are with us, to our neighbors, our neighborhood, city, to all the people in our country. To all the peoples of Europe, or if you're in the States, all the peoples of America. All people on earth. And to all beings in all directions. May all beings be happy. Sabe sata sukita hontu. Sabe sata sukita hontu. Sabe sata sukita hontu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much, Bhante, for your instruction, guidance, and the talk. So thank you,
Okay.
everyone. Anybody wants to ask on the spot today, or you can email questions. Okay, David.
David, yes.
Bhante, thank you so much. I notice in the list of various ways to avert tiredness, lethargy, and so on, there was no real mention of using light physical exercise to generate the energy through oxygen in the body. Is there a reason for that?
No, I sort of, I presume, well, you could say I sort of meant that when I talked about walking meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yes, I do a little bit of Qigong,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really good for lifting energy. Yeah.
I was going to mention that because
Oh,
I often use some of the morning practices in Qigong as a way of bringing myself to the meditation stool or chair with the right frame of mind, because it's a form of mindfulness movement. But there are also the techniques like tapping to generate energy in the body. And
yeah.
I found that a big benefit in my practice.
Ah, okay. Does
So
everybody know
sharing
about
that
tapping?
with others, it
Yeah.
maybe other people can explore that.
Does everybody know about tapping? You've all done it. You've all done a bit of tapping. No. Explain, Dave.
Okay, so one of the techniques for bringing energy and alertness to the body, particularly in the morning, I find, because we often wake up, we've had our rest, but we still feel a bit sluggish. And so there's this practice in Qigong. I don't know if it goes back to Tai Chi as well, where we use our fingertips to tap around the head, the jaw and the cheeks and the neck, and then down to the shoulders, and slapping the back of the arm and the front of the arm, the chest, and even down to the hips and the waist. And this, I believe, is based on the principle that this tapping encourages the flow of blood through the body, at the surface of the body. And because it encourages the flow of blood, it pushes oxygen through the body more quickly. I think that's my understanding anyway. But I find it a very effective method of generating energy when I wake up and if I feel sluggish, or that lethargy we might have before we have our first coffee.
Yeah. No, it's true. I've done it myself. It's quite an awakener.
Yeah.
You have to be careful not to hit yourself too hard, that's all.
That's why it's called tapping.
Tapping.
And slapping.
Slapping and tapping.
Tapping and slapping, not punching.
Thank you. That's good.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Anyone else? If not, then we will call for the end today. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, Bhante, for your kindness.
Peace and joy. Peace and joy.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you,
Toodaloo.
everyone, and have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you, Bhante.
Bed is the dangerous place to be, as Bhante said.
You too.
Best of luck.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, and good night, everyone.